Hello y'all, welcome back to the channel. I wanted to make at least a video because I haven't had a chance to make a video in a while. And what better video than a rant video, because I haven't really had time to put together another one of those NixOS tutorials. So I'm going to go on a rant about an experience I had just last weekend. The last weekend, not this weekend, but the previous one. I had a terrible time with my my NixOS config, and it was quite comical and funny. So here you go. So if you actually look at my config, which of course links will be down in the description below, my configuration is not minimal at all. We could actually like go through this. I can just show you like how not minimal it is. There's like a lot of stuff going on here. It just keeps going and going and going, and the themes directory is massive actually. Yeah, but like I have a very complex config, and I do sort of like it this way because I have all my apps configured basically the way that I want them to be configured, except for like tiny little tweaks that I make, you know, here and there all the time, right? You know how it is. And last weekend, I had this really terrible issue with my configuration. So I, of course, use NixOS Flakes, and part of your NixOS Flake, what you do to update is you update the Flake lock, which is that's this thing right here. So you update this, and that sort of like points you to like the actual specific Git commits of all of the inputs, like Nix packages and all the other stuff, right? And so I updated this, and then I started rebuilding my system. And for any of you that don't actually know this, NixOS is actually a source-based distribution. So it's kind of like Gentoo, more like Gentoo than things like Arch or Ubuntu, which are binary-based distributions, right? The difference between a source-based and a binary-based distribution is that a binary-based distribution, which is the default, when you install an app, it installs the binary, which all you need to do really is like download the binary and put it in the proper place. Whereas with a source-based distribution, source-based distributions tend to download the source code for something and then compile it on your local machine, which takes much, much longer, but you can really fine-tune and tweak things to be exactly the way you want them to. And NixOS is, of course, this way. You can, you know, compile all of your own software if you want to. But for many things that take a very, very long time to compile, like web browsers, for example, Nix provides a binary cache. And actually, Nix provides binary caches for all of the default sort of setups of all of the packages in Nix packages. So typically, unless you're doing something weird or crazy like me, you don't really have to compile stuff from source. But okay, anyways, so back to the story. Okay, so I'm doing like a regular weekly update to my system, and I'm just like, you know, watching the system rebuild, and like it's taking an abnormally long amount of time. So I'm like, you know what, I'll just let it run for like, you know, a little while and come back to it. Hopped in the car, went out, took care of some stuff, did some shopping, and I come back. It's like 6 hours later when I actually come back and check this. I wasn't out for 6 hours, but like I didn't check it after about 6 hours, and like it's still compiling and like building the system configuration. So I'm like, what the heck is going on here? And like I actually look closer at the terminal output, and it says compiling WebKit GTK, and like WebKit is it's a browser backend. So I'm like, oh, it's compiling a browser from source. That kind of sucks, but it was just about finished. So I was like, okay, it's almost finished, so I'll just let it finish. And so then it finishes compiling WebKit. And then the next thing it starts compiling is Chromium. And like, as I saw it, it starts its compilation, and I see it has to compile like 65,000 header files. Like I'm used to like compiling like Waybar or whatever. It only has like 160 or 200 header files and I just wait for like 5 minutes and then it's done. But no, this was Chromium, and Chromium has to have 65,000 of them. And so at that point, I was like, okay, something is really, really wrong. I have to stop this. And so I stopped it, and I started inspecting my config. I went through all the different portions of my config. I started going to my configuration.nix, that would be this one right here. And I just started like pulling packages out of my system. The home.nix, I just kept on pulling packages out like left and right, trying to see, okay, which packages, like what is actually going on here. I even took out all of my web browsers. I took out Qt Browser, Brave, LibreWolf. I completely nuked them out of my system, and I tried to rebuild, and it was still compiling WebKit and Chromium from source. So like, oh, like what the heck is going on here? I literally had to spend like 3.5 hours figuring out what the actual problem was. And here's what the problem was. So I'll go back to my flake real quick here. And one of the things that you can do with a flake, which is kind of fun, but also leads to problems like this if you don't pay attention to them, you can actually patch Nix packages. And like this is really useful for me. One of the things that I use this for, they pushed some update like maybe a month or two ago that basically broke my entire Emacs config. And I didn't want to like redo my entire Emacs config. So all I have here is I have a quick patch here. I can actually show you that just undoes the thing that they did. So it allows my Emacs to still compile. Well, I had another patch in here before that I found this patch just online randomly. And I applied this patch sort of randomly, not thinking about it, because on a previous update, there was some random Python thing that I had downloaded, I think for some random thing in my Emacs config that like I don't even use that much anyways, but I thought, okay, if I can fix it, I might as well like have it still be there. And so this patch was just sort of like sitting on my system for, however long. And I had no idea that this would lead to it. But essentially what that patch ended up doing was messing with some dependencies of, basically every single web browser, which this tiny, tiny little difference in this one dependency forced all of the web browsers to just want to compile themselves instead of using the actual binary cache because of this tiny, tiny little difference. So like technically, if I compiled it, it would not actually technically be the exact same thing as what is in the binary cache. And so I have to spend 48 hours compiling all my web browsers from source, which is totally logical and not at all stupid. So in any case, once I found out it was that, I basically like kicked myself over and over, rebuilt my system and switched into the new configuration in about 10 minutes, like God intended updates to be. And yeah, that fixed it. But this whole thing really got me thinking about over-engineering. My system, as it stands, is quite an over-engineered system. There is probably an unnecessary amount of complexity in my system. There are things that I have them the way they are because it's very, very because I've spent this time sort of configuring the system to be highly optimal to my workflow. But at this like point here, there's sometimes these cases where if one thing goes wrong, it can sort of explode. And because my system is so complex, it's really difficult to actually nail and pin down what the actual issue is. So this just sort of had me thinking sort of philosophically about the whole idea of like how do you find the right layer of like complexity and improvements and adding to the config or just like the idea of changing and improvement in general, and then also the idea of like keeping things working and in line and how would you say, like minimal sort of. So it really got me thinking about this because it's a really important like topic to think about. how do you advance forward and make good changes without, making a change or, implementing something that introduces all this needless complexity and makes it really difficult to work with or really difficult to figure out what's going on when it breaks. So yeah, that's probably something I'm going to be just on my own time here focusing on, is how can I minimize my config like a little bit. I mean, there's no way I'm gonna like turn this into an actual like minimal Linux distribution, but like we're far gone that point. But it is something to constantly be aware of. How do you draw that line? I think I heard this really well once, because like I'm not actually a programmer by trade, so I didn't know this. When you hear the term DevOps, that actually means development and then operation. And development is all focused on like adding new things, adding new features, and like improving the software. Whereas operations is more about, okay, how do we keep this stable and functional and not blow up everything and, not introduce breaking changes and break everything. So it's just, I don't know, it's just a really interesting thing to think about. Like, how do you properly manage that? And that's something I'd love to hear from you in the comment section. How do you sort of manage in your own configuration, or if you're a programmer, like in your software, how do you manage this balance between like improvements and keeping things stable and working? Here I am sitting on Nix packages unstable, trying to talk about stability, but it is a wacky world, so yeah, whatever. In any case, if you like this rant video, I guess I can do more rants if you guys like these rants. I don't know, I feel like I'm just rambling at this point, but if you like this video, please like the video and leave a comment and join the discussion. And if you dislike the video, please leave a dislike and tell me why you dislike the video in the comment section. And also, if you really want to help out the channel grow, I also have the channel membership join button. I have a Patreon and a LiberaPay. Links are down in the description below. Huge shout out to all my supporters, which you'll be seeing on the screen right now, a list of them. Thank you all for financially supporting me. And again, if you like this content and you want to support me, please consider donating. So that'll be it for today. Definitely next time will be another NixOS actual tutorial instead of a rant. Unless you guys want more rants for some reason. I don't know why you would want more rants. I mean, I'm going on like a crazy person at this point, but and I'm probably not even going to edit this. Yeah, enjoy unedited Emmett. Yeah, next time I'm cooking up some stuff about how NixOS configs and how they work with like Git and some fancy stuff you can do there. If you watch my, if you've been paying attention to at all to my my configuration Git repo, you might sort of see where this is going. But anyways, that'll be it for today. So catch you all next time. See ya.